go to Mark in 5, 4, 3, 2. Good hit.
The president wants to spy on 200 million Americans without a warrant. Has he read this document which he was sworn to uphold?
Now, I will not have you libel Abraham Lincoln.
I don't understand the problem with registering guns. We register cars. Every nation has the right to self-defense under the United Nations Charter. Why shouldn't Israel exercise it?
Meet Mark Levine.
And welcome to the Inside Scoop. I am Mark Levine, your host for the hour, and I have a very, very important guest today. Her name is Judy Feder. She is a professor at Georgetown, a professor of public policy, the former dean of public policy at the School of Public Policy in Georgetown, but she wants to do something much more than that. She wants to be your member of Congress. Judy, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
I want to call you Congresswoman Feder, but I have to wait, I guess.
Indeed you do.
Until November 4th. Now, you're running to unseat Frank Wolf.
Correct.
In Northern Virginia. What is that district so that listeners know exactly who you would represent?
Well, the district begins on the east in Fairfax County, right at the Arlington line. It goes out from McLean, Great Falls, then all of Loudoun County, and on out to Winchester. Goes south to Front Royal, and further east goes south to Manassas. So the district really spans one side of the state to the other.
And if you live in that district, folks, you will have, frankly, anyone has a right to call in, but if you call in from that district, you will get priority. Just call in. You have the number there. It's 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. There's a local number as well. Call in. This may be your next member of Congress. Now, should I call you Professor Feder?
Please call me Judy, well, and I'll call you Mark.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'll call you Judy. Now, you want to unseat Frank Wolf. Now, Frank Wolf was invited to debate right here, sponsored by the League of Women Voters. He refused. He refused to debate you. So I guess we just have to do this debate without him. But my question for you is this. Usually people vote for the incumbent. Most of the time people vote for the incumbent. To want to unseat Frank Wolf, people are going to have to want change. Do we need change?
Oh, Mark, I've been running now. I ran in 06 and gave Mr. Wolf the toughest race he'd had in 24 years then. He's now been in Congress 28 years. I've been talking to people all over this district, from McLean to Manassas and Leesburg to Winchester. People not only want change, they're desperate for change.
Well, what do we need? I mean, for example, a lot of people are not happy with the current president. Does Frank Wolf usually agree with the president?
Actually, 90% of the time he's voting with the president on Iraq and the economy, and you know that on both issues, people do want change. The economy in this area, people as around the nation, people are really hurting, and Mr. Wolf has been part and parcel of the hands-off policy that brought us this financial crisis. So people are very concerned about change.
It's interesting, because Barack Obama was making the same argument, that John McCain has voted 90% at the time with George Bush. To be fair, if you like George Bush, if you like Dick Cheney, if you think the economy is going really well, if you like all the money we're spending in Iraq, you're probably going to vote for your opponent.
I'd say by all means, if you like the direction of the country and are happy with it, then Frank Wolf's your man. But if you want change, I'm your woman.
Okay, now what specifically would you change from Frank Wolf? Let's go down the list.
Sure. On the economy, unlike my opponent, I am very, very concerned about security and tax relief for the middle class. We just saw a bailout passed by the Congress that really nobody likes. I'm very concerned about overseeing it to make sure that taxpayers are protected every step of the way. And I'm also concerned, and this is what's so important about the future, is that we go beyond it to really protect middle-class homeowners. We have not done what we need to do to secure homes for people who are stuck with mortgages that they can't afford. I feel very strongly about changing bankruptcy laws to enable people, bankruptcy judges, to renegotiate loans so that people under primary mortgages, so that families can stay in their homes. I don't think we've done enough to limit executive compensation. Those golden parachutes and rewards for risky behavior are still out there.
You got a lot of things on your agenda.
Yeah.
Let's take them one by one.
Sure.
Okay, the first thing you mentioned was bankruptcy judges renegotiating loans.
Yeah.
I know, for example, that Barack Obama has supported a 3-month moratorium on foreclosures, and then he also supports a bill that if you're going to be foreclosed upon, the bankruptcy judge could look, see if you are one of those homeowners that's regularly paying on time, or whether you're one of those people that really can never afford it to begin with. Do you support the Obama plan?
Well, what I'm focused on talking about now, I think that I'm looking forward to working with President Obama and not against him, as Frank Wolf would. And what I'm talking about is enabling bankruptcy judges to make, when they look at a person's circumstances, to make renegotiating your primary mortgage a part of a bankruptcy settlement.
And what that does is it saves the bank money as well
saves
as the
everybody.
homeowner.
Enables people to stay in their homes, which is good for the banks as well as the homeowners. Right now, if a wealthy couple has a second home and goes bankrupt, they can renegotiate their loans. But
they can?
Yes,
Well,
because it's not your primary residence, your primary mortgage.
Right, you're telling me under bankruptcy law, current law, your second home you can renegotiate, but not your first home?
That's as I understand it, right.
So wealthy people who have 2 or 3, or McCain has, I think, 7 or 8 homes.
Something
I know
like
he's lost
that.
count.
Right.
If you have 7 or 8 homes, you can negotiate all but your primary residence.
The primary residence
the
is
other
the primary
6
problem.
homes you can renegotiate.
Primary residence is the primary problem. And
but the law prohibits it.
That's
now.
correct. And
now,
that we've got to change, because that then creates a strong incentive for a force that forces an action that forces a renegotiation or restructuring of a loan so that people can stay in their homes.
Now, Frank Wolf supports the current law?
As far as I know, Frank Wolf supported his was the hands-off approach that got us into this mess in the first place. And he's voted for the deregulation of the financing industry that has caused such a problem.
Now, to be clear, Frank Wolf refused to attend the debate with Judy Federer. I regret that. However, I will invite Frank Wolf to appear on this very show next week. I hope he shows up, and I will ask him, if he shows, that direct question. So you'll have a chance to hear it right here on the Inside Scoop. Now, in terms of the hands-off approach you were talking about,
yeah.
I assume you mean regulation of the markets, credit derivative swaps, things like that?
Well, actually, the big problem that led to this was the deregulation was enabling investment banks to actually offer mortgages, and that led to the transactions that have put people in so much difficulty.
Now, it's interesting because former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, who argued very strongly 8 years ago that we shouldn't be regulating these things, has changed his mind. He said there was a flaw in his ideology, which is surprising for such, an intelligent man who's been around a long time, admitting a mistake and saying we should have regulated it.
Well, I think that this meant there are many people who saw this coming and could have known that we needed to protect ourselves against a popping of the housing bubble, and that Frank Wolf and other members of Congress paid no attention. This administration allowed it to happen, and we are where we are, facing many, many more foreclosures. We've not seen the end of this problem, which is why it's so important to stop that problem so that people can stay in their homes. And people in Manassas, there are serious problems. In Sterling, around Leesburg, people are seeing their communities deteriorate. We need to bring an end to those foreclosures and turn the economy around.
Specifically, what would you do to regulate these Wall Street derivative swaps or other instruments that are so much a source of the problem?
There's a very big problem in that what we've seen on Wall Street is that people are able to make investments in which they've got no stake. They only benefit on the upside, and they've got nothing to lose on the downside. And we need to be much clearer about the way in which investments are handled, in which capital requirements, so that there's a much more security in what's being done and much less gambling. And in fact, if you think about other issues that are on the table, Frank Wolf has actually advocated, along with President Bush, privatizing Social Security, which really would gamble our Social Security benefits on Wall Street. Had we done that now, had we privatized, then people who are just going on to Social Security would have lost their shirts and had nothing to retire.
They'd have, I guess, about half of what the retirees got 6 months ago. That's kind of strange.
That's
for
right.
some retirees to get twice as much as other retirees.
Which is why privatizing Social Security makes no sense. You need that floor, that cushion, that is not going to go up and down with market problems and is going to be there for people. Privatizing would be a big mistake, and I couldn't differ more from Frank Wolf on that issue.
Frank Wolf wants to privatize Social Security, wants to end Social
Well,
Security.
he supported. He went along with a piece of legislation that would have allowed Bush to privatize Social Security, and I stand very firmly against that.
Let me ask you about the question you're talking about, the fact that if people take risks on Wall Street, if they succeed, they're rewarded privately, but if it fails, we taxpayers have to bail them out. It's it's kind of like gambling, throwing crap. 7 I win, and 2 I win as well. But the taxpayers seem to lose from that.
That's absolutely right.
You would restrict executive compensation. One of the specific things people talk about is golden parachutes. The idea that today, if an executive, Michael Eisner at Disney is a famous example, he lost 40% of the company's value and still walked away with $200 million.
Exactly.
You would bring more capitalism, more free market, say that if you fail, you shouldn't get paid?
Essentially, that you should not be rewarded for a failed business. You certainly shouldn't be rewarded at the same time you're making the taxpayers come in. There's another whole issue, which is the traders on the floor and the bonuses they get. That's a real concern. They're getting bonuses at a time when we are putting taxpayer money in to bail them out, so that there's a risk that bailout money is going to support bonuses for people who have gambled away our future. That's not acceptable.
Speaking of that, one of the things that Barack Obama had mentioned in the debate is that AIG, which got some $80 billion of taxpayer dollars, right after getting the money, holded a retreat, cost $400-something thousand. The banquet cost $150,000 alone.
Yeah.
That's our money they're spending.
Exactly. I mean, the disregard for taxpayer resources and for hurting families. When you talk about why people want change in this district, people are hurting from this economy. Jobs are at risk, college tuitions are at risk, retirement is at risk, so that an organization that puts us all at risk and then celebrates, that's an outrage.
Now be specific, Professor Fader. Judy, be specific. What could you do as Congresswoman Fader from Northern Virginia in order to prevent, like, these executives from AIG from profiting from the bailout?
Well, we talked about the bailout legislation, and I think nobody's happy with this bailout legislation.
So you would reform the legislation?
You've got, exactly. We need to do more. We need to have more protections or accountability for truly reckless behavior. We need to have better limits on executive and other compensation. And that's what I've been saying. The most important thing, Mark, is that we look at what we need to do to protect homeowners and enable people to stay in their homes.
Would you advocate the government having the right to sue these executives and get that money back?
What I'd like to do is make sure that we're looking at the compensation and establishing rules, a regulatory environment that is not hands-off, letting them do whatever they please, but actually establishes rules of the game that make sure this isn't happening again and that people are not being rewarded for squandering our resources.
So now, apart from Wall Street, you mentioned the bankruptcy, stopping the foreclosures. Nancy Pelosi is talking about a stimulus package for the middle class. Would you support such a bill?
Yeah, I absolutely. And I actually was talking to people out in Chantilly today about the service cutbacks that we're seeing in the state of Virginia. When we go into bad economic times, the state loses money, and that's what this position Virginia is in. Then the state starts cutting back on services that people need, on Medicaid and health care services, on daycare, on social services, at the very time when, because of the falling economy, people need them more. We need a stimulus that gets money to the states to make sure that services are continued.
Now, the stimulus would send money to the states. How about, for example, Barack Obama has talked about a middle-class tax cut, one that would help everyone under $250,000 a year. Is that something
that's different? That's different from the stimulus. We're talking about middle-class tax relief. I am absolutely supportive of middle-class tax relief. We've got to lower taxes on people with incomes under $250,000. I'm also very concerned about affordable health care, and I want to talk more about that in a minute. Then that becomes a real relief for the middle class. And another piece that Frank Wolf, he and I couldn't differ more on affordable health care.
I'll tell you what, we have to take a break, and I know you're an expert in health care.
Okay.
So after the break, we're going to talk about your health care plan.
Fine.
And I also want to play for you after the break some of the comments of McCain aide Nancy Pfotenhauer when she suggested that Northern Virginia isn't the real Virginia. I'll get Judy Fader's comment on that. If you want to call in and ask her a question, don't hesitate. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. We'll be right back after this. Very much towards me.
It's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me. There's more than just books at the library.
Il n'y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot
lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800-RUNAWAY.
Here again, the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to have sitting next to me a woman who hopes to be a member of Congress at the election in just, 9 days from today. Northern Virginia will have a chance to kick out the incumbent, Frank Wolf, and to install in his place the professor and dean of Georgetown School of Public Policy, and that is the woman sitting to my left, Judy Fader. Now, I invited, in fact, the whole station invited, the League of Women Voters was going to moderate a debate between Judy Fader and Frank Wolf. Frank Wolf refused to debate, which is surprising because you'd think he'd want to defend his record. I will invite him to come here next week. He will have every opportunity to have the same opportunity that Judy Fader is having, and if he chooses not to exercise it, well, we'll let the voters decide whether that matters. Judy, I want to play for you a clip from a McCain aide, Nancy Pfotenhauer, and get your comment on it.
I certainly agree that Northern Virginia has gone more Democratic. As the proud resident of...
Let's play it again from the top.
I certainly agree that Northern Virginia has gone more Democratic. As the proud resident of Oakton, Virginia, I can tell you that the Democrats have just come in from the District of Columbia and moved into Northern Virginia, and that's really what you see there. But the rest of the state, real Virginia, if you will, I think will be very responsive to Senator McCain.
You're not hearing the clip at all? All right, they're not hearing the clip. We will play it in the next broadcast, so we will get to this. I promise. Technical problems do happen. Let me go back to what you were saying about healthcare. You said you have a very different plan. Now, before you get to the plan, you have a specific expertise in healthcare. Is that right? What is that?
I've spent my career working for affordable healthcare for all Americans, most of it at Georgetown, but also working with members of Congress, working with cabinet secretaries, and working with a president to make sure that every American has affordable healthcare. And my difference with Frank Wolf is that... Before you get there,
what specifically have you done? You said you worked at Georgetown. How did you work on healthcare?
Well, at Georgetown, I have done a lot of analysis and provided a lot of support to members of Congress on how to make Medicare work better for seniors.
So they've come to you and they said, Professor Fader, you're the expert on this, so we need your help.
That's correct. That's correct.
What are some of your policy papers? They try to determine how to make Medicare more affordable.
How to make Medicare work better, how to provide long-term care, how to pay hospitals in ways that get greater value for the dollar in the healthcare system. So how to get everybody. I've spent a lot of time looking at the ways we can get everybody affordable health care, make sure that everybody has insurance.
I can't emphasize how important that is because a lot of people have complained about the fact that Medicare may go bankrupt soon. And so if we can make it more affordable, then that would save us a lot of money and protect people's health
The real concern, and I differ with Frank Wolf here. Frank Wolf wants to have a commission and let them decide how to deal with Medicare. And I believe that we elect a member of Congress to do the job on making health care affordable. And what he misses, and those who would destroy Medicare miss, is that the real problem in terms of making Medicare affordable is making all of health care affordable. Healthcare, we've got people who have private insurance, most of us do, who are going bankrupt because the insurance is not covering their costs. We need to make insurance affordable for everybody, and that's the way to address the problems of Medicare and Medicaid along with the rest of the healthcare system. Our healthcare system is broken. We need to fix it.
Now, Frank Wolf supports the McCain healthcare plan, which they give you a tax credit and then they tax the health care you get from your employer.
Yeah.
That's Frank Wolf's plan. Do you agree with it or not?
No, I do not. It makes no sense at all. What Frank Wolf is supporting when he supports McCain's health plan is the largest tax on the middle class in history. To tax.
He would raise taxes.
Taxing our health benefits would
If you
do
get
that.
health benefits from your employer,
From the employer, as
Frank Wolf would raise your
most
taxes.
working people do. What he would do is tax those benefits, and over time, as the cost of health care rises, that tax will tax more and more. Meanwhile, he's giving people, McCain proposes to give people a credit, $2,500 to an individual, $5,000 to a family, to go shopping for health insurance. Well, health insurance costs for a family costs over $12,000, so it's not enough to shop.
And if you have a pre-existing condition, you can't even get the health
And no, actually, if John McCain were to put himself under his own plan because of his cancer, he couldn't get health insurance.
He couldn't get his own health insurance. No. He only gets it because he's a member of Congress.
And what he wrote some months ago, or some weeks ago, it was published. He said that he advocated deregulating the insurance industry, the health insurance industry, the way we've deregulated the banking system.
Oh, great!
And so we would have a problem like our subprimes, health insurance policies that aren't worth the paper that they're written on. And that's actually what Frank Wolf has associated himself with.
What would Congresswoman Fader do differently? What would be your health care proposal?
Number one, everybody's got to be guaranteed affordable health care. That means you've got to have a health plan. If you like your health plan, stay in it by all means. But if you don't, you need to be able to get a plan that will not discriminate against you based on pre-existing conditions. Change those rules, prohibit insurers from discriminating. Also, every health plan's got to offer the benefits we need when we're sick. People know about donut holes that don't cover their drugs in Medicare, or fine print in health insurance that is making people who have health insurance go bankrupt. None of that. We've got to have a full range of benefits like members of Congress have. If it's good enough for them, for heaven's sakes, it's good enough for the rest of us.
It's interesting. A lot of that has been proposed by Barack Obama.
Absolutely. He's on absolutely the right track, and I look forward to being in the Congress and working with him to make that plan a reality.
Okay, but you know what Republicans will say? They'll say it's too expensive. We can't afford all this.
Well, what's expensive is the healthcare system going the way it is. It's eating up families' incomes. It's eating up wages. It's eating up local government, state government budgets, and it's eating up federal budgets. And what we've got to do is get everybody into the system so that we can focus on prevention, on disease management, on letting doctors know, getting them better information and rewarding them for delivering services that work and not delivering services that don't, and investing in 21st century information technology so that the system works more smoothly for all of us. We all know how frustrating the healthcare system is. Not to fix it is to really risk bankruptcy for families as well as for the nation. We've got to fix it for all of us.
Okay, I'm told now the clip is ready. It's a bit of a change of subject, but it has to do, after all, with your district, with Northern Virginia.
Okay.
This is John McCain's aide. It's someone on his campaign staff, his spokesperson. Here's what she had to say about your potential district.
I certainly agree that Northern Virginia has gone more Democratic. As the proud resident of Oakton, Virginia, I can tell you that the Democrats have just come in from the District of Columbia and moved into Northern Virginia, and that's really what you see there. But the rest of the state, real Virginia, if you will, I think will be very responsive to Senator McCain's message.
Nancy, I'm going to give you a chance to climb back off that ledge. Did you say real Virginia?
I did say outside of Northern, well, I mean real Virginia, because Northern Virginia is where I've always been, but real Virginia I take to be this part of the state that is more southern in nature, if you will. Northern Virginia is really Metro DC, as you're aware, Kevin.
Okay, so now that was Nancy Pfotenhauer, and it's interesting because I have another quote. This is from John McCain's own brother. And he was quoted by the Associated Press as calling Northern Virginia communist country. Why don't Republicans like Northern Virginia? And what is it? Does it matter for people in your district that John McCain and his aides don't seem to? Well, they don't believe we're real here. I'm allowed to say
That's
it.
pure and simple.
We're the fake Virginia.
That's
I guess.
right. And I talk to real people in Northern Virginia, going out west to Winchester every day. And what's real is the problems families are facing. To be written off as not real is to disregard. It shows how out of touch they are with the needs of the people in the 10th district. People in this district are hurting in this economy. They need health care. They want those tens of billions of dollars we're spending every month in Iraq to come home and rebuild here, right here in the 10th district of Virginia. We are very real, and they're not listening to us, which is why we're going to make a change, and why, if I have your votes, I'm going to be the next congresswoman in Virginia's 10th congressional district.
I'm curious to know, when you have, John McCain's campaign aide, I mean, it's funny to me, not only did she say, Northern Virginia isn't the real Virginia, but the talk show host gave her a chance to back down. He would say, I'll give you a chance to come down off that ledge. In other words, you made a gaffe. Don't you want to come out? And she said, no. If you're not part of Southern Virginia, you're not real. How does that mentality affect how the people of Northern Virginia are treated by their federal government?
Well, I think it's very clear that they're being disregarded by McCain and by the Republican Party, and not their concerns aren't being met. If they've written us off, how can they possibly get us the transportation we need, the jobs we need, the health care we need?
Let me ask you about transportation, because you raise it. I know, for example, that there's going to need federal money to get to that connector rail out to Dulles. I don't know if any part of that's in your district.
It absolutely
part
is.
of it is in your district, and that's something where if the Republicans are in charge, they apparently don't respect they don't consider Northern Virginia to be real Virginia. You're not going to get help for those transportation projects.
Well, I'll tell you that Mr. Wolf, over the years, I thank him for what he's done on transportation.
So he's been okay on that.
Well, he has, but we still are waiting. He ran in 1980 on Rail to Dulles, and we're still waiting.
He ran in 1980 on Rail to Dulles?
That is
28 years ago? He promised us Rail to Dulles?
That is correct, and we need to get that, and what we need is a member of Congress who is going to be very focused on getting Rail to Dulles and to Loudon. And beyond that, I want to go beyond Mr. Wolf and make it very clear to a new administration, and Obama administration, and to my fellow members of Congress, that the 10th district is really a part of the nation's capital.
It is a part of Virginia.
It's a part of Virginia and connected to the nation's capital, and that we need that the workers go back and forth, the goods go back and forth. We need an effective transportation, one consistent with smart growth, which is what I'm looking to support in this area, because it's what Virginians, real Virginians, want.
It's interesting that you said that he ran Frank Wolf 28 years ago on Dulles. He's had several Republican presidents, people of his party, Reagan and Bush and George W. Bush, and even a Democrat, Bill Clinton. He hasn't gotten it done, whereas Obama talks about infrastructure projects, that we need major infrastructure projects. Do you think you could work with Barack Obama to get that Dulles Rail?
Absolutely. I think we've got to work with Barack Obama to get Dulles Rail, and work with Barack Obama to get support throughout our district for bringing our transportation and other infrastructure in line with our development. This district suffers from a tremendous development without an infrastructure to support it. And what we need is help from Washington to enable us to pursue a smart growth plan that brings transportation and development together.
We have to take another break, but I want to encourage listeners to please call in. You too can be heard. Ask your potential member of Congress what you would like to hear. This is as much about you as it is about her. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. This may be your next member of Congress. Here's your chance to grill her. Go at it. We'll be right back after this.
Nuclear weapons are religious duty.
Today, materials that can be used to make nuclear weapons are stored in more than 40 countries.
Sometimes protected by just a chain-link fence.
Yet not enough is being done to lock down these materials
before terrorists steal them. Why did we learn all this?
My mother,
My son,
My sister-in-law.
were all murdered September 11th.
help protect America.
Together we can.
Please join us.
The stem cell issue is being debated throughout the country. Truth is, most everyone has an opinion, even if they don't know the facts.
Let's stop arguing and start really understanding the potential of stem cell research.
For us and for millions of Americans living with disabilities, get the facts.
Call 1-877-842-3442 for free information from the Stem Cell Research Foundation. That's 1-877-842-3442.
Following the tragic events of September 11th, there have been hundreds of violent attacks against innocent Americans.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for.
Remember, please stop the hate.
We're stronger when we are united.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for.
One nation under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty
And justice.
for all.
In America, there's either room for everyone, or it's not America.
Don't pick the wrong fight.
Let's keep America land of the free.
Stop the hate.
Planning a home renovation? Put this at the top of your to-do list. Because after 10 years, none of you are protected against tetanus and another potentially fatal disease, diphtheria. A minor injury, such as a cut or a scrape, can put you at risk for a tetanus infection. And while safety gear offers some protection, an up-to-date vaccination called the TD Booster is the best insurance against tetanus. So get the TD Booster. If it's been 10, do it again.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. Do you like the direction of the country? Do you think we're doing really well? Do you love the economy? Do you think the Iraq War is going swimmingly? Do you support $1 trillion going to Iraq? Do you think that the bailout plan was a good idea and that we should spend a lot more money on Wall Street? Do you love Dick Cheney and how he views the Constitution? If so, you're going to want to vote for the incumbent, Frank Wolf, in this election. But if you think there's time for a change, if you think that maybe Congress isn't doing all it should be doing, if you think that maybe you want someone to be supportive of a new President Barack Obama, someone who believes that Americans need health care and maybe a shakeup, then you're going to want this woman to my left. Her name is Judy Fader. She is a professor of public policy at Georgetown, a former dean of the School of Public Policy.
Correct.
Judy, I want to play for you your ad. Let's let all our viewers watch it.
Sure.
1980, Pac-Man is the new fad, and Frank Wolf goes to Congress.
28 years later, Frank Wolf supports the McCain plan
to tax your health care benefits.
Wolf even supports risking your Social Security in the stock market.
And a constitutional amendment that criminalizes abortion.
Just like John McCain.
We need new leaders with real solutions.
Judy Fader will work with Barack Obama to fix our economy and fight for affordable health care.
Judy Fader for Congress.
I'm Judy Fader. I approve this ad.
Okay, so we talked about the health care. We talked about the fact that Frank Wolf wants to privatize Social Security, which is amazing to me, really, when you think about the fact that seniors who got to be 65 this month would make half of what seniors who got to be 65 6 months ago. I'm not sure how that works for public policy. But the third issue you raised, the third issue you raised we haven't talked about. He wants to criminalize abortions?
Frank Wolf came to Congress in 1980 on a platform that he would ban abortions.
He would ban abortions.
He would ban abortions.
So criminal penalties for people who have abortions.
Exactly, they would be banned. And we know that that is not acceptable. We need to protect people. Nobody wants abortions, but when a woman's right to choose is very critical to people in this district, in this nation, and it's actually a public health issue. Frank Wolf has not supported federal funding of family planning for the military and in other countries, and that is leading in other countries in particular to deaths in childbirth and to children being born into families that can't afford them. That Frank Wolf is genuinely concerned about human rights. I believe this is a human rights issue.
What about contraception? Do you know if he has a view on that?
That's what family planning is, education and contraception.
So he would be against?
He's been against federal funding for in terms of foreign aid, and that is a very real problem.
I mean, I think about the tens of millions of people dying of AIDS in Africa because they don't have contraception.
So you're absolutely, because they don't have the means to pursue safe sex. You're absolutely right. So it is very much a public health issue, and one that demands a responsible policy, and he's not a supporter of it.
Speaking of going abroad, in terms of our troops in Iraq, how does your policy, your plan differ from Frank Wolf's in terms of, for example, of treating our veterans, the GI Bill of Rights?
Well, let's go back one step, because I am very much in favor of I have for some time been in favor of bringing our troops and our dollars home. Frank Wolf is not doing that.
On that, obviously we've lost, I think, 4,000 lives.
More than, yeah.
20, 30,000 wounded, something extraordinary. I was in an airport recently and I saw all the veterans come back with hooks for arms and stumps for legs, and it's really very, very powerful. You think, now the Iraqi government has said it's time to go home. The Bush administration has said it's time to go home. You say it's time to go home. Frank Wolf thinks we should stay?
Well, I think that the Bush administration is not moving as rapidly as
I understand that.
And John McCain, he has supported a continuing presence there and has taken no leadership to bring our troops home. Anytime that he's had an opportunity to vote to bring them home, he's not done so. We need to bring them home. We need to change our policy around the world. We need to move our military to Afghanistan, which is where we should have been in the first place,
to
combat terror. That's right. To combat terrorism. We have weakened our military. We need to work with other nations to diplomatically, need to work with the military for a responsible withdrawal from Iraq. I feel very personally about this, as I mentioned to you earlier. At Georgetown, I built with the Pentagon, with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a program for Army captains coming. They have been identified as leaders in the military, and the Joint Chiefs are bringing them in for rotations in the Pentagon. And as part of that program, they have come to our school, to our public policy school at Georgetown, for an executive master's degree in public policy. So I see these troops when they come in from the field, know that they go out to the field. I very sadly laid a wreath at Arlington for one of our alums who was killed by an IED in Iraq. We need to treat them responsibly. They have been terribly treated by this war, and when they come home and are wounded in need of services, the healthcare system for them has not worked for them. Now, Jim Webb, I know we're very pleased in my district, all Virginia, no matter what she said about Virginia.
Yeah, she said you're not part of the real Virginia.
In the 10th district, we helped elect Jim Webb, and Jim Webb sponsored a GI Bill of Rights focused on education benefits for the troops coming home. Frank Wolf voted against those.
He voted against it.
He did.
So Frank Wolf's position is, if you're 18 years old or 20 or 25 years old, and you've gone and you served your country, and you've risked your life to serve your country, if you come back, you're going to have to pay for your own education.
He did not support that bill, and I think that that's a travesty. I am very pleased that it was enacted anyway.
Well, it's surprising to me because you look back in the 1950s, which was a time of relative economic prosperity for Americans, and one of the things that economists cite is that you had all these World War II veterans. They came home. They took advantage of the 1948 GI Bill. Yeah. They went to college, and they were able to function and do well in our economy. It's amazing to me that Frank Wolf would be so anti-veteran on this.
Yeah, I don't understand how you could vote against that bill, and I'm not very glad it is now the law, and we will be helping veterans get the education they need despite Frank Wolf. And to make sure that that benefit goes into place appropriately and that health care works for veterans, we need a new member of Congress from Virginia's 10th district, and that's why I'm running.
Well, we have a caller from someone in your district, hopefully. This is Brian. Brian, welcome to the show. Brian, you're on the air. Oh, we lost Brian. That's too bad.
That is a shame.
And let me just encourage people to call in. Locally, it's 571-749-1166. Toll free, it's 888-488-MARK. I'm told we have Brian back. Terrific. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark. Question for Judy. One of the ways that you can improve the economy is to make higher education more affordable. So I'm wondering, as a member of Congress, what would you do to make attending college more affordable for those who are qualified to do so?
That's a great question, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. I'd be interested in knowing where you are in your education, but you raise a critical point, is education is so important to having a strong, competitive economy. What's happened over the last several years is that Pell Grants, which help people go to college as well as loans, have become too expensive and not cover. They have shrunk and are not helping people be able to afford rising tuitions. I'm very supportive of strengthening both the grants and the loans so that everybody can go to college. Thank you for asking.
Well, now this is very interesting to me because George Bush has cut these grants time and time again, and it really hasn't been only him because you have a whole Congress.
That's
the president can't just do this by himself. for the last, I guess 12 years, from 94 to 2006, we had a Republican Congress. Frank Wolf sat on that Congress. What was his position on Pell Grants?
Well, what I can tell you about Frank Wolf is that we've been talking about these issues for 28 years, as long as he's been in the Congress, whether it is a good, strong education system, our affordable health care, transportation. All of those issues have been around for a long time. He's just not, 28 years without results, let's face it, it's time to replace him and have a new member of Congress.
It's just interesting to me. The Republicans were in charge for so long, and we saw student benefits cut. And what I guess what I understand is, do they not believe in the American dream? I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, well, obviously there is capitalism. You can succeed where you try and you fail, if you don't succeed. But it's ironic to me that whereas they support corporate executives who fail miserably in their businesses and still get paid off. It's so different. You have a small business, you succeed, you make a lot of money, you fail, you lose. They support very rich people failing and getting a lot of aid, but they don't support people joining the middle class, equal opportunity, student loans.
I think what we see is, and what all of us are frustrated with in the Congress, is that they are essentially engaged more in political bickering than in solving the problems that we're facing. And Frank Wolf has been there for 28 years. I hear when I do meet him how he's kind of thrown up his hands and given up on actually being a congressman who's going to deliver results. I am not a career politician. As we talked about earlier, I've spent my career
in education, of all places.
It's right, in education, and fighting for affordable health care. And I am, the reason I'm going to Congress is to bring those results. And I think that's what we're seeing. 28 years and no results needs a change.
I've been thinking about what Congress has been up to, and I think about the last major thing the Republican Congress did in 05 and 06. I believe it was the Terry Schiavo case. They decided to make Congress interfere in the personal decisions of a family facing this terrible circumstance, a woman dying in a coma, and they passed a bill in Congress to make the decision for this family. Instead of trying to make health care affordable to all of us. I mean, I don't know where Frank Wolf was on that, but I assume he was with the Republican leadership.
I don't know, but and you may be right, but I think that what we want is not, I mean, it is Republicans who are intruding between us and our doctors, not people like me and Senator Obama who are advocating a universal coverage. So I think that their focus has been on narrow issues and not on the issues of most concern to our families.
But Judy, how do you deal with people like Nancy Pfotenhauer, a McCain spokesperson, that says, let's just face it, you're not the real Virginia. The real Virginia, I mean, in Westchester, you've got horses and farms, and you're a Georgetown professor. You're an elitist. You don't represent ordinary people. How do you respond to something like
what
that?
I'd say is I've lived in this district for better than 30 years. I've raised my children here. I'm thrilled that my twin granddaughters, Katie and Lizzie, live down the street from me in my district. I am representing the voices and looking to go to Congress to carry the voices of the people all over this district who want change. And what I would say is, Nancy, wait till Election Day, a week from Tuesday, because we are coming out in droves to make it very clear that we need a new direction for this country, which means electing President Obama, electing Senator Mark Warner, and electing a new Democratic Congresswoman from the 10th Congressional District.
It's interesting. I mean, again, I guess the people that like the way the country is going now, they would be opposed to you. But people who support change, it's fascinating to me that some would say, I support change, but then they vote for the guy who's been with Bush 90% of the time.
Yes.
It doesn't really make any sense. Folks, if you want to call in, all you have to do is pick up the phone. It's your last chance, our last segment. Give us a call. 888-488-MARK, 571-749-1166, the local number. Either one will get you here, and you can ask your future Congresswoman a question. We'll be right back after this.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those? Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
Here again, the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. It is the last and final segment. If you haven't had a chance to call in, please do so. The toll-free number works now, I assure you. 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. You can dial locally, 571-749-1166. It is my distinct honor and privilege to sit with Judy Fader, a candidate for Virginia's 10th seat, 10th Congressional District.
Yes, sir.
Seated now by the incumbent Frank Wolf, who we have invited to come for a debate. So far he has refused, but I will give him a full hour, just as I gave Judy Fader, if he will come sit right here next to me, and I'll ask him the same tough questions that I'm asking Judy. In terms of the war in Iraq, we talked about the human cost, which is severe. I want to talk about the financial cost of the war in Iraq. How much has it cost in the past? How much will it cost in the future?
Oh, you know, it's costing hundreds of billions of dollars, and essentially, I think the estimates are over $1 trillion, because we not only are we dealing with the costs now, but we've talked about the warriors coming home wounded and terrible problems. That's costs well into the future. That we're spending $10–12 billion a month in Iraq when we have crying needs here at home. The Iraqis are benefiting from the increase in oil prices that we've seen, although some of that's come down. They can pay for reconstruction. We need to end the war, and we need to bring the dollars home and invest them here in infrastructure, in education, in healthcare. We've got tremendous needs here that we need to address.
Now, of course, the Iraqi government has a surplus of, I think,
That's right.
$80 billion or so.
That's right.
While we're financing them, would you support requiring Iraq to pay us back?
I would support requiring Iraq to take care of its own reconstruction and use those dollars to do that, bring our dollars home to rebuild here, right in the 10th district. The 10th district, we're talking about rail to Dulles, we're talking about energy needs. We can build, we can support an innovative technology industry building on what we've got in the 10th district. We can support a whole host of green jobs right here in Virginia. That's what we need to be doing with these dollars.
Now, what's interesting is there was a time, I guess back in Jimmy Carter days, when the Republicans were the fiscal conservatives and the Democrats were the big spenders. It's interesting to me how it's reversed. Bill Clinton gave us the biggest surplus in American history, $280-something billion. George Bush has given us the biggest deficit in American history, largely because of this war in Iraq and tax cuts and things like that. In Congress, we find that the Republican Congress gave us the biggest debt in American history, while the Democrats support pay-as-you-go, the idea that when you have a new program, you got to find the funding for it. Do you support pay-as-you-go?
Yes, I do. And what I think is a striking figure is that the debt has doubled in the last 8 years.
$5 trillion
to over 10 and growing. Frank Wolf has voted for every single one of George Bush's budgets.
So Frank Wolf has voted to double the national debt.
I would say that's an absolutely true statement.
And people have to pay that back, right? We can't just default on that
The interest on the debt becomes one of the larger expenditures in the federal budget at a time when we're going to need support for Medicare and Medicaid, for Social Security, for all the other needs. All of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, over time, we will be paying an increasing amount of our federal budget to pay off the debt.
So if you're
which is held which is held in large part by people in other countries.
Right. So it's fair to say that Judy Fader believes more in cutting spending and cutting the deficit than Frank Wolf.
I think it is absolutely fair to say I'm running on fiscal responsibility. I'm concerned about the fact that over the last 10 years, Frank Wolf has essentially mortgaged our children's and grandchildren's future.
So if
and
you're
I want
against
to turn
a
that
big
around.
spend in Congress, vote for this
Vote
woman
for me.
sitting here to my
Vote
left.
for fiscal responsibility.
Now, it's interesting to me, the spending has gone wild, out of control, and it's been on all kinds of silly things as well as useful things. Where would you redirect spending? You said education, healthcare.
Well, let me give you an example of some spending that should be adjusted immediately.
What would you cut?
We've got in Medicare a program that we all care about, and that you and I talked a little while ago about. It's going bankrupt. The concern that it is going to go bankrupt, just as the baby boom generation, my generation, turned 65 and needs it. Every year we are spending billions of dollars in overpayments to HMOs and other insurance companies.
In overpayments?
In overpayments.
And more than they have a right under the law?
Well, it's not more than the law essentially is bribing them for pulling people out of traditional Medicare to participate in the program.
Wait a minute. Is this part of the prescription drug bill the
It
Republicans
is indeed.
passed?
It is indeed.
So what they do is they pay
They
companies
pay extra.
more
than it would be in
than they
traditional-
pay doctors under Medicare.
They pay the insurance companies more than it would cost under traditional Medicare.
So in other words, if Medicare would give a doctor $500 for a procedure, they pay the insurance company $750 for the same procedure.
Well, it's not quite.
I don't know if it's that percentage.
What they do is they make a payment to the insurance company to the HMO or other insurance company for each enrollee that is greater on average than would be paid if that same enrollee stayed in traditional Medicare.
So if we cut out the middleman, we save the taxpayer and the person getting health care.
Or pay them a fair share. I mean,
pay them the same rate that you're paying everybody else.
That's why the Congressional Budget Office and others say we are overpaying. That's a perfect example that we are throwing
that just
money.
sounds like a huge subsidy from taxpayers to HMOs.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And you would end that.
And I absolutely
And Frank
would.
Wolf wouldn't.
That's probably the case.
Because he voted for the other bill.
He voted for the bill in the first place that put this into effect.
So he voted for this.
He did.
And
He
you
did.
and you would get rid of it.
And I would get rid of it.
Now, in that bill, I believe, the same one Frank Wolf voted for, there was a provision that made it illegal, correct me if I'm wrong,
That's correct.
illegal for the federal government to negotiate better prices. I know Canada, for example, goes on behalf of all Canadian
That's
citizens
correct.
and says, Merck, we're only going to pay you this much
That's
for this
correct.
bill.
Yeah.
And Frank Wolf's bill, as I understand it, the one he voted for, makes it illegal for the United States to get a better deal for Americans.
This makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. You're absolutely
He
right.
wants Americans to pay more for health care so that the pharmaceutical companies get more.
Well, it makes no sense. Essentially, we want a member of Congress who is supporting a government that gets good value of the dollar for all of us, and negotiating drug prices would do that, and I would support it.
It's amazing. Well, I guess what Frank Wolf voted for would take money from people in Winchester, people in Loudoun County, and give it to the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, any time we are spending more than we should in government, and these are big sums of money, we are squandering taxpayer resources, and we're borrowing, and that's what we were talking about a moment ago. In terms of debt, we are mortgaging our children's future, so that we can't. If we do that, it makes it very hard to respond to Brian, who's talking about how to fund education, how to make it affordable. We need the dollars home. We need to invest them here and around the U.S. But as the member of Congress for the 10th District, we need to invest them in the 10th District.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I hear Republicans all the time talk about tax and spend Democrats, and here they complain. And listen, I've heard people say you want socialized health care, but your health care plan actually saves money.
Well, Frank Wolf talks about attacks me as wanting government-run health care. It's just not true.
It's not true.
It's just not true.
You're not voting for single-payer universal
health care.
What
What I'm voting for is making sure that every American has affordable health care, a plan that covers them when they're sick, in which they may pay but not more than they can afford, and in which insurers don't discriminate against them based on pre-existing conditions. What Frank Wolf supports is the John McCain plan, that would interfere, that would have government interfere by taxing the health benefits that we have now, causing an estimated 20 million people to lose employer-sponsored insurance, ending making even less protections, even fewer protections than consumers now have against insurers' ability to deny benefits or limit coverage based on pre-existing condition. That's government interference in our healthcare.
Now, we only got a few minutes left. I want to ask you about energy. Barack Obama is running, saying that he supports putting money into green energy, into green jobs. He talks about getting us off of foreign oil. He thinks we can get off of foreign oil in 10 years. Do you think that's a realistic
Well,
goal?
I think what we've got to do is, for God's sake, get started. I mean, we need a major investment in renewable fuels.
Wind,
and support
solar?
for wind, solar,
geothermal?
All the above. We really need to invest in renewable fuels so that our future does enable us to be independent of foreign oil, and so that we have a clean and safe environment. We are essentially making the environment increasingly unsafe over time. That is not responsible stewardship.
Now, Detroit has been a little slower than Europe, slower than Japan, on creating hybrid electric cars. They're slowly coming around now. Would you support investment in companies that are willing to make those kinds of cars?
I think we absolutely need to be supportive of companies that are making more efficient cars and of standards for greater efficiency.
So CAFE standards. Raising fuel efficiency standards.
And of support for families in terms of tax benefits who want to buy these cars. Absolutely.
Oh, so you would give a tax cut to people who buy a hybrid, for example?
I think we can support that. I think we absolutely should, and we need to be supporting efficiency not just in our transportation, and that also means public transportation, but we also need to be supporting efficiency in our buildings and in our daily life.
Judy, we have about 90 seconds left. I want you to look in the camera to your constituents, perhaps, in a few months, and give us a closing on why you are the right candidate for November 4th.
Well, 9 days from today, we are going to make a choice in the 10th District of Virginia and around the nation. Do we want more of the same, or do we want to turn this nation around? Frank Wolf has been here for 28 years. 28 years, the same problems, no results. He can't bring us change. I'm running to get the economy back on track, to get every American affordable health care, to bring our troops and our dollars home from Iraq and rebuild right here at home, rebuild our roads and our public transportation, clean and efficient energy, and invest in all of the things that we need in Virginia. So, on November 4th, I am asking for your vote so that I can take your voice to Congress, move our nation forward, work with President Obama and Senator Mark Warner, and bring the voices of the 10th District Virginians to Washington to build a better future. Thanks.
The real Virginians, if you will, even if the McCain campaign doesn't think you're real. Let me just say this as we close. This is not an infomercial. I have invited Frank Wolf to be here as well. He was invited for a debate with the League of Women Voters. He refused the debate, but I will invite him to come here next week and ask him the same questions. It seems to me that if you like the way the country is going, well, you're going to vote for George Bush and John McCain and Frank Wolf. But if you want to change, you think we need a change, you shouldn't just vote for Mark Warner, who would give us a change, but also Judy Fader, someone who could help Mark Warner do that change. Judy Fader, thank you so much for coming here on the Inside Scoop. If you want to comment on today's show, go to my website, radioinsidescoop.com, and say whatever you wish. This is Mark Levine signing off.